Everything you've ever been told about losing weight through calorie deficit is completely backwards. Calorie counting for true results is not just ineffective, it's completely unnecessary. And here's why. The whole weight loss industry has been telling us that to lose weight, you have to be in a calorie deficit. But I lost 20 pounds without ever counting a bite, fighting hunger, or even giving up any favorite foods or any foods for that matter. So, how can you lose weight without stressing every day to control your calories? We're taught that to lose weight, we need to be in a calorie deficit. But that perspective oversimplifies the whole human into a simple math equation and misses very important components of how we gain and lose weight. You see, there's something called the basal metabolic rate, also known as BMR. And this is the minimum amount of calories that your body needs just to stay alive. Make your heart beat, let you breathe, keep your body warm, make sure your immune system keeps you from falling sick, make sure you don't die while you're having hours of sleep and not eating, growing hair, growing muscle, everything. And to lose weight with a calorie deficit method, you need to estimate how much calories your body needs just for those basic functions, plus all the calories that you use by going through a typical regular day of life. And it's all an estimate how much calories you use to stay alive and how much calories you use to live your life. It's just an estimate. And the goal of this calorie deficit method is to eat less calories than the ones you would regularly consume in a day so that your body takes those calories that you didn't eat from your reserves, in this case, your fat. However, the body actually adapts your basal metabolic rate. Let's say this basal metabolic rate moves either up or down, whether you've been regularly feeding it more calories or less calories. So it'll readapt itself to whatever you regularly feed it. So let's say, for example, you regularly eat 4,000 calories a day, and suddenly you start feeding yourself only 2,000. And at first, it's going to eat from its reserves, which is what they're there for. And this is when you feel like you're on a roll, losing weight, everything's going great. But then that base adapts. It gets the signal that you're now working with only 2,000 calories a day. So it adjusts and it manages all the calories coming in. So instead of giving 100 here, 100 there, 100 over there, it'll be like 50 here, 50 there, 50 over there. So you may slow down your heart rate, you will feel a little cold, it might make you more sedentary just to preserve the limited calories that you have available. And it'll make sure that when you get any extra calories, you can put them in reserve because you're telling the body you might need them later. And this is where you plateau. In calorie deficit, as a math equation, sounds pretty simple, but honestly, you're putting your body through unnecessary torture because you can achieve the same results by focusing on variety, type, and quality of food instead of trying to estimate everything that you eat. Your body actually does the counting for you without having to white knuckle hunger or turn every bite into a math equation. And most importantly, focusing on variety, type, and quality of foods doesn't force your basal metabolic rate to lower. Because usually, when you're on a calorie deficit diet, what happens is that by the time that you drop it, that you just stop doing all the calorie deficit things that you need to do to be in a calorie deficit, you have a lower basal metabolic rate. You want to get back to eating how you used to eat, which normally is more than what you were eating. Um, you you now have this base and you're eating this much, so it counts as this much being excess. And guess what your body does with excess? Fat starch, which is why you gain all the weight back plus some more. When you instead focus on the type, variety, and quality of food, you just eat normal food until you're satisfied. and you stay satiated until your next meal. Not because you're pushing yourself to not eat, but because you are satisfied, because you don't care to eat anymore. So, how does this variety, quality, and type of food look like? I'll answer that for you, but first, let's explore each word. Variety refers to the different types and colors of food. The more variety you have in your nutrition, the more you're guaranteed to have all the nutrients that your body needs just to function properly. Type refers to macronutrients. You have your fats, your protein, and your carbohydrates. And when you have a meal that's high in good fats, clean protein, and fiber above any other carbohydrate, you will naturally feel more satisfied, trigger less fat storage, and naturally eat less calories. Again, not because you're pushing yourself through it, but because you just don't care to have more. And quality refers to the source of the food, the source of the ingredients, and how they've all been processed. For example, let's take a burger. Now, burgers have acquired a very negative connotation in food. We usually equate burgers to junk food, but I disagree. If you think about it, you have your carbs, your protein, you add some veggies, and some good flavors. It's really not a bad food. But again, the quality, the source of the ingredients, and how they are processed makes a huge difference. So, for example, if you take the bun and it's a bun, it's homemade with sourdough, organic einkorn flour versus a typical genetically modified wheat flour white bread with added preservatives. Or take the patty if it's an organic grass-fed and finished local farm beef versus a factory farm hormone injected unhappy environment cows living in their own poop factory farm type of world beef. And then whatever veggies that you make, you can make them organic. That would be better than unorganic, but at least veggies versus no veggies. And then if you add some fermented pickles versus the vinegar and sugar infused pickles, if you had some fermented ketchup that has minimum amount of sugar versus a full on sugar with food coloring and who knows what else is in there type of ketchup. Now, if I make my own mayonnaise, like what kind of oil am I using and how fresh are the eggs versus mayo that you can get at the store, which, well, I don't know. It has a lot more ingredients than what I put in my mayo. Each ingredient is going to make a huge difference and it adds up. And just like hamburger, you can find a bunch of other foods that have been deemed junk food that could be very different just by changing the source of the ingredients and how they've been processed. And the beautiful part is that you get to make that choice. This is why I say that you don't need to give up your favorite foods to lose weight because it's not about the food itself, it's about the quality. All right, so let's recap. Follow these three steps, and you won't ever have to push yourself through a calorie deficit weight loss diet thing ever again because you'll naturally want to eat less while being satisfied. That's how I effortlessly lost those 20 pounds. Number one, expand your food options instead of restricting them. Eat a variety of real food. Even if you don't give up the ultra processed junk stuff, when you expand your food options, you at least eat less of the junk food that you would normally eat. This is going to ensure that you're not fighting cravings or hunger urges just because you're lacking nutrients. Number two, make sure that your plate contains higher amounts of good fats, good protein, and good fiber above any other macronutrient, which is carbs. This will naturally ensure that your meals are more satisfying and reduce the urge for snacking. Number three, quality matters. Know where your food comes from and how it's been processed. Don't just stick with the front of the label. Turn that bottle around or that box, I don't know what you're reading, and see the ingredients and the story that tells you. This is going to ensure that that food has the nutrients that you are looking to consume from that food, and none or minimal amount of the inflammatory foods that you would not want to consume. Tell me in the comments, doesn't this feel like a more human way to live than pushing yourself through hunger and cravings? In case you don't know me, my name is Lisette Lance. I'm a food relationship coach, and I help women to naturally lose weight without any restrictive diets. And if you want to learn more about how you can do this too, so that you can feel great in your body, quiet that food noise, and stop feeling confused on what to eat, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss my next video. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.